There is much research about the social, emotional and academic effects of separation and divorce. There is a paucity of research focusing on the nexus with education and how teachers work with children and their families to facilitate adjustment to their changed family circumstances. Through a vignette of teachers' experiences, we use a strengths approach to explore the practices of teachers when working with these young children to promote well-being and learning. We provide the background, theoretical perspective, method of the study, followed by an analysis and discussion of the teacher's vignette to show how teachers focused on building on the strengths of the situation and the child to support them to visualise a positive picture for the future and make adjustment to their changed family circumstance. Separation and divorce are a common phenomenon in Australia and indeed the world. Stress factors of parents experiencing separation and divorce that influence the well-being and learning of young children have been widely documented. Parental stress factors include parental absence, compromised parenting, economic disadvantage and parental conflict. Commentators agree that there is a dearth of knowledge about the impact that separation and divorce may have on children and call for a shift in the focus of research to investigate proactive measures to minimise the impact and promote resilience to enable children to better cope with their changed family circumstances. Teachers are in an ideal position to support and assist children with these challenges on a daily basis. However, not all separation and divorce of children's parents result in children experiencing negative effects. Research shows that 75% of young children experiencing parental separation and divorce make adequate adjustment in time. It is important for teachers and other professionals working with children experiencing the parents' separation and divorce to consider the factors that contribute to children's positive adjustment. Pedro Carroll identified factors from the research literature that can be modified to promote positive outcomes for young children. These include individual factors, family factors and extrafamiliar factors, or those factors external to the family. It is these factors that teachers can assist young children to activate to empower them to build on their own resources and connect with available resources to find solutions and alternative possibilities in relation to their parents' separation and divorce.
Thanks, Linda. Strengths, perspectives and approaches emerged in social service and psychology disciplines in the 1960s and 70s and were heavily influenced by civil rights movements in the United States. References to the use of strengths approaches in practice when working with families and children increased significantly in the 1990s and 2000s. A common concept of all variations of strengths approaches is a rejection of deficit-based interventions to issues and focusing on people's problems and viewing the practitioner as an expert rescuer or fixer of these problems. In contrast, strengths approaches rely on a collaborative response to issues where the strengths of stakeholders, their skills, knowledge and resources are used to find strategies to enact positive change. Social justice principles of self-determination, empowerment and transparency are the foundations of the approach, and strengths practitioners aim to facilitate change by power with stakeholders rather than power over them. This approach is suitable for working with children experiencing their parents' separation and divorce, as individual children respond in a myriad of ways, rather than applying a universal or a one-size-fits-all approach when working with these children. In Australia, St Luke's in Bendigo, Victoria, developed their own variation of the strengths approach. McCashin, 2005, developed a guide for implementing the strengths approach with 6 key stages for reflection, planning and action. Step 1 is listening to people's stories, exploring the core issues. Step 2, developing a picture of the future or a vision and setting goals. Step 3, identifying and highlighting strengths and exceptions to problems. Step 4, identifying additional resources to assist. Step 5, mobilizing strengths and resources through a plan of action. And Step 6, reviewing and evaluating the progress and change. The first 5 stages are usually presented in a 5-column table format. In this paper, we use the column approach as an analytical framework for viewing the practices of teachers when working with children experiencing parental separation and divorce. The strengths approach does not discount problems children may experience in their life resulting from their parents' separation and divorce. Indeed, the examination of these issues is the first important step. Rather, a strength approach enables practitioners to work to find solutions and to take action to transform situations. The actions of teachers in this study focused on empowering children to build on their strengths and supporting them to build resilience.
The strengths approach aligns with Amato's divorce stress adjustment model as it stipulates a positive outcome for children. This perspective views divorce as a process that occurs over an extended time with stresses leading up to and following the actual separation and divorce. Importantly, teachers, early childhood services and schools can make provision for protective factors to buffer or moderate the mediators or those stress factors to facilitate children's adjustment to their changed family circumstances. In the strengths approach and in this paper, the focus is on the moderating factors of teachers, as teachers are in an ideal position to support children. Vignettes were drawn from a larger data set from semi-structured interviews with 21 teachers of young children. We will share one vignette with you today. We interpret the vignette in line with the research literature about parental separation and divorce, and then use a strengths approach using the column approach as a research methodology to identify how this teacher in these specific situations applied principles in the 5 steps of a strengths approach as a moderator with protective factors. This is Lara's story and how she works with Abigail. Abigail was a 6-year-old girl living in a shared living arrangement. She spent 50% of her time with her mother and 50% with her father. She had not been with her mother at all prior till now, since she was little, because there was a custody issue. I saw that taking quite a toll on her as far as just being tired and dealing with the different sets of rules in the different households. I'm one of those teachers who does a lot of talking to the children. I would give Abigail the opportunity to talk about that if she felt like it. At times, when I felt Abigail had concerns that I wasn't qualified to deal with, I would contact Katrina, a welfare person who specialises in this area. In the classroom, I was mindful of the situation. I made an effort to get to know Abigail's routines and know which days in the week she was with Mum or with Dad. For me, it meant that instead of dealing with one household when I thought about Abigail, I needed to consider the 2 households and how they were quite different. The homework and things like that were a priority in one household, but not in the other. I realised that with homework and projects that it was not always in the child's hands. While I treated all children equally, I gave consideration to Abigail's individual circumstances and gave her more time in class, at recess or lunchtime to do things that other children might have done at home. So you can see from this vignette that Lara demonstrated her knowledge of the parental stress factors that Abigail had experienced. Lara described her knowledge of the absence of Abigail's mother for an extended period of time and the impact it had had on Abigail, suggesting her awareness that parental absence may adversely impact some children. While Abigail now has physical access to both parents, this vignette suggests that parenting of Abigail may have become compromised. Lara spoke about Abigail's parents' different styles of parenting. One parent supervised Abigail with completing school homework and projects, while the other parent did not provide support, suggesting that this parent's style of parenting was non-authoritative. Importantly, Lara demonstrated awareness of how these parental stress factors had a knock-on effect to Abigail. Lara was observant to realise that Abigail was experiencing difficulty adjusting emotionally to her family situation. In this vignette, Lara observed the custody arrangements with Abigail living in 2 households with 2 different sets of rules taking a toll on Abigail emotionally. Lara's observations and conclusions are supported by the research literature that continues to confirm that children's emotional well-being can decline as a result of their changing family circumstances. Lara developed an understanding of Abigail's family context and Abigail's unique experience with her family situation and aligned her actions with this constructed knowledge. Lara spoke about her awareness of different sets of rules in different households, and being mindful and lenient with her expectations of what homework and projects would be completed at home. Lara made allowances for Abigail to complete work at different times during the day, making the point that she maintained the same expectations for Abigail regardless of her family's circumstance, suggesting that she ensured that Abigail's schoolwork would not become compromised, as is common with children experiencing parental separation and divorce. While maintaining her expectation that Abigail would complete schoolwork like the rest of the children in the class, Lara made allowances and adjusted how she worked with Abigail during this time. This is consistent with research that shows that teachers adjusted how they interacted with children experiencing parental separation and divorce. Lara was careful not to add to Abigail's stress by expecting tasks to be completed. Rather, Lara acted as a mediator. She would provide opportunity for Abigail to talk to her and referred her to other support personnel, such as the welfare person at the school, for counselling.
In our research, Linda and I applied a column table to analyse the vignettes. In this case, how Lara applied a strengths approach in her practice with Abigail and her family. Working through the 5 steps of the column approach, we were able to see how Lara reflected deeply on the issue, had an overall aim for Abigail's adjustment, enacted key existing strengths and resources to determine an action plan. A first step in enhancing pedagogical practice for working with children and families experiencing divorce and separation is an open and transparent examination of the situation. And for Lara, this was the very first step of enacting the column approach, focusing on the stress factors of Abigail having to navigate 2 different households and the impact of this on the child, the family, and the educator. The Raising Children Network explains that it often takes time for children to get used to moving between 2 households, and for some children there may be a differing emphasis on the completion of homework between the 2 households, as well as parents may not actually be aware of how far the child has progressed with tasks. The second step in the column approach is determining a picture of the future, and we can see this reflected in the vignette. Lara had a vision or a goal for Abigail that included feeling more settled at school and comfortable transitioning between the households. The third step evaluates the existing strengths and skills that assisted Lara in using a strengths approach. It was clear that Lara was a good communicator, had Abigail's trust, and was able to gather information and resources to assist her to plan strategies. Lara was able to enlist the help and expertise of Katrina, the school counsellor, as a valuable existing human resource. Strengths such as communication and the ability to build trust can greatly assist with providing a duty of care and the referral responsibilities of an educator. In the 4th and 5th steps of the column approach, additional resources were identified and understandings gained from the previous steps were used to determine a solution-focused plan of action. As well as the human resource of Katrina, 2 additional resources are suggested: the Raising Children's Network and Kids First. They provide tips and advice about successful transition between homes and school and homework success for children from divorced and separated families. Strategies for the plan included things like duplicating assessment sheets for both households, sending email updates or results to both parents, checking the child's stationery available for the tasks at both homes, or the ability to transport the tools needed. Laura also had problem solved by providing some time for rest and quiet space during the school hours for Abigail to complete homework or just to have a little rest. Some schools offer more general morning or afternoon homework centres and programs to assist children like this and their families as a really helpful strategy. In our research, we argue that with a clear understanding about applying a strengths approach, teachers can not only support children's well-being, but also create positive changes for children and families. We found that using a strengths approach may assist educators to explore complex issues of practice and to generate useful strategies that assist in minimising the impact of separation and divorce. Thank you for listening, and please do not hesitate to contact us.